Welcome back to Profiting from Your Passion podcast. I'm David Wooten, and today I have a great guest with me, Mr. Tommy W. And just to let y'all know, when I took on doing this podcast, Tommy was the first person I knew I wanted to have as a guest because living out his passion is just who Tommy is. So I'm not going to go a whole lot into it. I'm just going to basically turn this over to Tommy, and I may have to get him to pause occasionally. But Tommy, when you read this, when you think about profiting from your passion, and again, profiting is getting more than just the accumulation of your actions out of what you do. Where does that take you? Where does it go? Just tell us a little bit about you and what that means.
Well, first of all, thank you for asking me to be a part of this podcast, David. And this topic, I appreciate you saying that this made you think of me, because I kind of have to agree. I do have a passion. I have a number of passions, but when it comes to like a career, I certainly am following my passions now. So, yeah, I was always thinking that I would want to be a teacher one day, wanted to be a teacher. I had this drive to be a teacher. And yet, early on in my childhood, I recognized, we didn't have any male teachers. I went to a Catholic school, so they did have the brothers, but like lay people, men didn't teach. And then later on, as I grew older.
Wait, being a brother wasn't on your mind at the time?
No, I was not. No, because I liked girls, and I was looking forward to getting married and having children and all that. So, but no, it was very, very tempting. But I ignored that temptation. No, I didn't want to be a brother. I didn't even want to be a sister. But that was even more tempting. But because those cool outfits they wear. But no, so then when I grew older, I realized you can't teach because you can't make enough money to raise a family on. And that's, I wanted to get married. I wanted to have children. So I'm like, what about, I guess I got to put that aside. So I majored in business. And when I graduated from college, I went into the business world, and I spent 37 years in sales. I did find a way, though, in my sales career to begin to become, like, even though I was in sales, I found a way to become a teacher.
Yeah.
So I taught my coworkers in training and sales training, and then my clients were banks, and I trained the bank personnel how to sell their products and services. So I turned it into a teaching job anyway. But at the tender young age of 59 years old, I retired from my professional career, and I followed my dream of teaching religion to 7th and 8th graders right here in Lafayette. So I'm just finished my 3rd year, and I'm just ecstatic. It's like I've already entered heaven in the past 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously the professional job, it did help you get into a place, though, where you could pursue this, or that it was an easier decision to make.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, because in my sales career, I had some flexibility as to, taking some vacation time and things like that, so that I was able to substitute teach. I was able to do that a lot, so I could sort of dip my toe in the water, so to speak, kind of, well, would I really like to be around, a bunch of 13, 14-year-olds all day long, so I tested that for quite a while, for several years in substitute teaching. And so I was able to do that. And I just, everything was a green light when it came to, believing that God wants me to be a teacher. And everything about growing old as a salesperson, walking through the airports, when I'm in my 70s, for some reason, I just didn't want to go after that.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
There are people that do, though.
Yes, they do.
That's the life. That's the life they want.
And that's their passion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God for them. Because if they didn't do it, I'd have to be doing it. So, yeah. But there's other people who would dread spending all day, every day with a bunch of middle schoolers, and they think I'm crazy to do that.
Right.
So.
Right. I've got a passion for golf. Was never, even at a young age, going to make money doing it, much less, being older than Phil, who just want to, major championship, going to make money at doing it, you know. But there are definitely things I learned from that I take from that passion of the sport itself, the competition, the being focused, the doing those, and put them into my work life. And some of the things that I'd rather, you know, I love my job, but there are things in my job that I don't love. Right. So taking those passions and applying them helped me love my job even more. What about with your business, you know, in your business world, did teaching do that for you, or other passions?
Well, actually, yeah, teaching helped my sales career, and my sales career helped my teaching career. I don't know if that's where you were going with that, but
I don't know.
Okay.
Wherever you're going.
Well, well, we could take a left turn. So here's the deal. I'm trying to convince, sort of sell what I'm teaching to these middle school people. And so I have the ability to do that, having worked in sales for 37 years. And just a little side story real quick. I had a situation with a very irate parent. You know, I know that's very unusual for parents to get upset about their children, but so this irate parent was upset at the whole school, just crazy, and in the principal's office, and I got called in there to address it. And when I did, I handled it just like I used to handle any irate customer in sales. And when I went in there, I was very calm. I stopped, listened to them. I thought about what they said. I empathized with them, and then I started proceeding with a solution that would work for everyone. And that process, it just worked just like it does in sales. And afterwards, at the end, the principal commended me for it and said, you know, wow, you know, most teachers just get very defensive and argue back with the parents. You know, I was amazed that you handled that so well. So, well, that's from years of being in sales, you know, so that helped me with those skills as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I spent a lot of times in sales myself. I still have sales that I'm doing, right?
Sure.
Being told no is a heck of a teacher, right? And knowing that you got to get past that no,
right?
That you got to continue to move.
Yeah,
it's being told no is a big teacher,
right?
It's so. What about? I know a lot about you. So Tommy and I are good friends, and I know a lot about you. And in your sales career, I know though it wasn't just about, oh, I wish I was teaching. You had some fun times, some exciting times. Sure. There were things about your job that you loved doing with people.
Right. Yeah. And so I think it's not so much what's important is not what you're doing, but why you're doing it. You know, think about that. It's why you're doing it. So so
why were you doing it?
So if I was selling what I was selling, the services that I was selling, if I was doing that just to make money, I would have been miserable. But when I saw it as an opportunity to help these people who I'd befriended as clients and giving them, a way to make their business stronger, then I saw it as, hey, well, I'm just helping these people. So it was an attitude about that, you know, and then it was all about teaching them, showing them how to make their bank, in this case, these were bankers, make their bank run more efficiently and better, and where they could serve their customers better. And so it was all about teaching them, you know, right. Uncover the need and then provide a good solution for it. And that's basically what I was doing that whole time. So I saw that if it was only about just making money and moving on, I don't think I would have stayed in that for very long. As it turned out, I was 32 years with the same company and 37 years total in sales. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been in some jobs that a couple of the jobs that I had were just, I couldn't find the purpose.
Yeah.
Right. I couldn't find the purpose.
Right.
And look, there were people in those jobs that were very happy doing them. And
right.
Like you said before, thank God we need those.
Yeah.
We need them, right?
Yeah.
And good for them and doing it. But for me, it's two-sided. It's got to serve a purpose when I'm doing it, that I can find a purpose when I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, helping those bankers and those people run their business better. For me, helping people run and manage their home better and helping them have the home of their dream. But it was well on the backside, the financial side of it, you know, that purpose of knowing that this is going for a greater good of my family as well.
Absolutely. Sure. Well, sure. I mean, I wouldn't have done it for free.
Right.
Wouldn't have done it for free. And I was successful at it, very successful in my career. But I think it was because I had that attitude. And frankly, who stays in a business for a company for 32 years, you know?
Not many people anymore.
Not many. But I mean, I think it was because to me, every day, I saw it as something different than just a job. I saw it as something that's fulfilling. And I think about these clients as my friends. And sometimes I think of them like I'm a doctor and they're the patient and they don't even know if they're sick. And I can help diagnose that by getting to know what they're working with, what are their challenges and all this. And then I look at, okay, well, had you ever thought about trying this, you know, and then helping this. So I never had a problem getting appointments with anyone because they knew I wasn't there to take their time. I was there to give them some help. And so they always welcomed me, you know, and I was always grateful for that.
So that was your profession until you retired and went do your dream job.
Yeah.
So how does that dream job pay you now? Not financially.
Oh man.
But how does it pay you in other words that are beyond what you put into it?
So great analogy. And this is an absolute true story. Is right towards the end of my career, I made the biggest sale I'd ever made in my 32 years with that one company. And I'm old school. I still like to get a paper check. So I wanted my bonus check in check form. So they did that. They sent it to me and it was the largest bonus I'd ever made. And I folded it up and put it in my wallet, you know. And the next day I was taking the day off to go substitute teach. And so I was subbing, and this little seventh grade girl had written me this sweetest note. And it was, you know, she had painted like little flowers and a heart on it and everything to Mr. Tommy. You're absolutely my favorite substitute teacher, all this stuff, you know, blah, 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 all this wonderful heartwarming stuff, and signed it. And I looked at that and I said, that is so incredibly valuable to me. And I slipped it in my wallet right next to that other piece of paper that had a lot of zeros on it, right? And I thought about it when I put that wallet back in my pocket, and I said, now if I were to lose this wallet, which of those two items would I miss the most? I knew what was most valuable to me at that point. And that was sort of like my green light also to kind of, well, it's been a good run in sales, and now it's time to continue to sell, but sell something different to different people. And so I'll get to know my students. I got 157 students, and I get to know what is it they're seeking in life. So I'm not really teaching religion as I am trying to coach them into how to live a life of peace and happiness, and how to hit the reset button, you know, things that these young people and anybody actually of any age needs to learn. And meet them where they're at and just give them some guidance, you know, in using the things that Jesus Christ taught us, using the things that I've learned from my parents, you know, and from my friends like you know, good things like that. If they like what I say, I take credit for it. If they don't like it, I say, David Wooten told me that, you know.
By all means.
Yeah, I've been doing that for years. Yeah, even stuff that I said originally and they didn't like it, I say, David told me that. Yeah.
People think I talk a lot of them.
Yes, they do. Because there's a lot they don't like.
There you go. Thanks for putting the pieces together.
Yeah, I made that connection. I made that.
You know, what you're saying, though, reminds me learning from people that you meet, learning from people you know, I know you're a man of service. I know that's been part of your life for a long time. There's a particular man, you told me a story, you told me about meeting, and that he taught you a lot that was from a place that you didn't imagine before you met this person, you wouldn't have imagined you would learn a lot from someone in that situation. And that was your buddy, Mr. Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Could you tell us a little bit about Mr. Paul and mainly what it was that he taught you?
Sure. Well, I had, I was young when I first met him. I was in my mid-20s and still trying to figure out life, well, even at 62, I'm still trying to figure out life.
There you go.
But at 25, I certainly had a lot and I was just trying to get my priorities right. I was married. We were expecting our first child, and all of that was going on, and trying to be successful in my career. Had a lot of stress, and I didn't have family around me because I had moved away from my hometown. So I was pretty much out there on my own, trying to learn about how to deal with the stresses of life and all of that. And I found myself in an organization that did charity work, uh, drank a lot of beer. And oh, by the way, they also do charity work. So, and that was back in my beer drinking days. But so I found myself having to go deliver, uh, not deliver things, but to find people who needed things, services or whatever, because we had money to help these needy people. And I met this man named Mr. Paul McZeal, and he was definitely needy. When I first, his original immediate need was he had no utilities at his house. So I managed to get that all turned back on for him. He was disabled physically and mentally, and then over time we developed a friendship. And then ultimately, I was myself and a number of my friends were able to help them get back on their feet, get some nice housing, and live comfortably on their own disability check that they were getting. But I continued to stay with him. It was no longer a charity situation. It was a friendship, right?
Right.
So I would roll up at his house on the days where, where you're just about to go postal on people, like that Falling Down movie, where the guy just goes over the edge. And I was, days like that. And I was just like, I need Mr. Paul. And I would pull up to his house and he'd be out there working in his little garden, or just sitting out by his front door. And he was an older Black gentleman who had almost no education. He couldn't read, and his IQ was exceptionally low, 62, I believe, or 66, somewhere in that area.
Doesn't mean didn't have a lot of wisdom.
He had way more. I always say, he was the smartest man I ever met, because he knew about life. He knew about what was important. He knew how not to worry about things that are outside of his control. He learned to live in the present moment. He was grateful for everything that he had. He taught me all the pearls of life, pearls of wisdom that in life, like Jesus did to his disciples. That's what this man did for me, and it was straight out of just common sense, good, wisdom, having lived life and paid attention to what's important. And he really finished off raising me, and my son and daughter got to know them both, him and his wife, before they passed away. And that's been many years ago. They were little at the time.
Right.
Yeah, but that was that, and I've shared those stories and the things that I've learned from them. And that's really what we do. We pass on wisdom that we get from others, right? We don't, none of it's original,
Yeah, no, I think it's one of those stories that's just, that speaks to, that when we act out of love for our neighbor, at the time when you told me that originally, yes, it was to do service, but you were also was very much focused on building your network and building, doing those things. Mm-hmm. And even though that was your maybe primary purpose, mm-hmm. the fact that you were loving your neighbor, right. something came out of that which was much greater than the accumulation of Absolutely. Your service, right?
Yeah, and and then that friendship I developed there I got to know their neighbors and then their relatives and friends and all that. And now I'm plugged into a community of impoverished people here in Lafayette so that when people want to reach out and help, I know the people who need the help, and I'm stay in touch with them all the time. And I get far more from them than they get from me, even though I can help them materially.
Absolutely.
Those people just, and another quick story about that ties in with something similar with Mr. Paul and the topic of this podcast is I was on my way to a national sales meeting, which happened every year. And I hated those meetings. I'll be honest, I hated them. You sit in a room and all you do is stare at, PowerPoint presentations all day, and living in a hotel. And it's just, I wanted to be home with my family. And so I was dreading the meeting, as I always did. And it was always flying off to some exotic location. But I didn't have any appreciation for it because, you know, this is later in my career, and I, you know, I wanted to be home with my wife and my kids and, you know, my ministry work and all of that, you know. So I'm in the airport, and there's this, I'm eating this delicious meal that you can always get in an airport, you know, and I'm sitting there eating this rotisserie hot dog or something, you know, and sitting right next to me is this man, a gentleman who, he was in a jumpsuit, and he clearly was like a maintenance worker in the airport, and he was eating his lunch right next to me, and we started up a conversation, and he was asking me, you know, where I was headed and what was going on. Oh, I got to go to this stupid sales meeting, and it's going to last all week, and takes me away from my home and my ministry. And he asked me about ministry, and I said, well, I like to help the youth, you know, and I also do a lot of charity work. And so I was telling him all this, and I said, but nope, I got to spend a whole week over at this meeting. And he goes, well, Tommy, how many people are going to be at this meeting? And I said, about maybe 500 or 600 people, you know. And he just sat there for a second. And then he goes, well, has it ever occurred to you, you might be the only Christ that they see all week long? And it just snapped in my mind. It just, you know, it was like an epiphany. I was like, I've gone at this with the entirely wrong mentality, right? Instead of going into it thinking, you know, I've just got to endure it, you know, and white knuckle it and get, you know, until Friday and then get back on the plane and get home, is I need to see this as God sending me here to go and do something to be Christ to other people, you know, to be present to them, to help them in whatever way, just like I do at home, right? With the kids that I minister to, with the poor people. Why not these people? Salespeople are somewhat human as well. Yeah. Not entirely, but somewhat human, you know? So I was like, man, I got to write that down. So the guy had finished his lunch. He said, I got to get back to work. So I wrote that down in my notebook. And then I get, you know, to my destination. Well, I think it was in Florida, and I had some more conversations with people that were spiritual. And I wrote those down, and it went on all week long. And at the end of the week, which flew by, I got home, and instead of spending an hour, you know, complaining to my wife about how horrible that sales meeting was, I said, this was the best week. I mean, and she goes, what happened? I said, let me tell you. And we all know she wished she hadn't asked, because I had a notebook full of all these spiritual experiences. Now, I would have had that regardless, those opportunities, but it was my mindset. And again, it's not what you're doing, it's why you're doing it or how you're doing it, right? And so going at this with a different purpose, you know?
You know, for me, when that perception changes to that point of view, you know, that maybe who am I going to be able to be Christ for in that day? How am I going to help others? And it changes to that. The world literally does change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But because it can go from hopeless to hopeful in just a split second, because that's there, because that moment of faith is there. You know, it's you know, my daughter Tyler, and her faith is different than mine, right? But one thing we have in common is that willingness to step out, and when we see somebody, to take that step and go, hey, what's going on? Tell me about how you're doing, and just be that, just be there, right?
Be present to it.
And be present to them. And so no matter who you are, no matter where your faith is, of course, we have our belief of where it ought to be, right? But just starting with those acts of kindness, to me, is where it all really begins. Yeah. You know, we were given that commandment, love your neighbor. Right. Love one another, and doing it. So how does your faith help you without going out? You know, I know you teach religion. Yeah. But without going out and being Mr. Preacher Man everywhere.
Yeah, I don't want to be
how does it help you be a better father, be a better granddad, which you are now? Yes. You know, be a better husband, be a better friend, teacher, be a better Tommy. How does that? Okay.
I would say two things to answer that question as brief as I can, because I have a tendency to rattle on, as you know. Number one, one of my favorite expressions is God is love, right? So we all know what love is. We might wrestle with this concept of who God is, but we all understand what love feels like, what it looks like, what in the absence of it, We also know what that feels like, unfortunately. So God is love. And so when we plug ourselves into love, things just go a whole lot better. You know, we love to be loved, and we love to love. It's so that, and the reason why it goes so much better is I firmly believe that's what we're created to do, is to give and receive love. Okay. The other thing is that you can't make yourself happy. You can make other people happy, and that will bring you happiness. But you know, and this is not some original thing; it's just what we all have heard. But look at all the people who have gone after their careers with just complete abandonment and forgetting about all the other things. But I'm just going to make this business as successful as I can. I'm going to make millions of dollars. You know, uh, and at what cost, you know?
Right.
But they think if I ever get this much money, then I'll be happy. If I get this size house or I get this, and they never reach happiness. They get all the fame, all the fortune, they get all of this, and they never find true happiness. You know, the happiest man I ever met was Mr. Paul, the happiest man I ever met, probably the poorest man I ever met too, physically, mentally, everything, materially, and yet he was the happiest man I'd ever met. So it's it's not it's not a good practice to try to go out and see how can I make myself happy, grab all the happiness I can get in this life. That's a futile thing to do. It's like a dog chasing its tail.
Yeah.
You never reach it. But if you go out and focus on other people, you know, and just try to make them as happy as you can, I can attest to it. That's when I started doing that, my life got way, way better. And you love yourself more, and you're able to give more to others. And then times when I'm not feeling so happy, I realize that I've fallen back, because it's not like suddenly you're perfect, you know, but you start to fall back and become selfish, more self-focused, self-centered. You know, what about me? That's not fair. I deserve more than this. And that's when you start to lose some happiness. So I'm like, okay, Tommy, let me check my selfish gauge. Am I focused more on myself or others? And the cool thing is you can hit the reset button instantly and get back to helping other people. And then you start to find happiness in yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Peace. You know, to me, I didn't understand joy until I understood that.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I thought just being happy was more that excitement thing that you know.
Yeah, I
You
did
know,
too.
yeah. Right. And I happied myself out.
Especially back when I was drinking.
Yeah.
In my drinking days,
Right.
I felt very happy.
Yeah.
For several hours.
Right.
But then not so happy later.
But never truly joyful until I
Never
found out
joyful.
what that was, and that
Right.
that usually comes through serving others. You know.
Sure.
And doing it. You know, that's awesome. It's and just to let y'all know, there's something. Tommy and we have this kind of a competition going on. I'm winning significantly.
Of course.
I am significantly more humble than Tommy, although he's pretty humble. He'll tell you that himself.
What's the best trait I have?
It's
my humility.
Yes. So
I'm very proud of that.
You know, and you know, he'll work on a little more. Maybe he'll get closer to me one day.
I think I've got it perfected. I've never met anybody more humble than me. You know, to show you how humble I am, I'm going to let you think you're more humble than me.
Oh man, I think you maybe have me then.
I'm very proud of myself for saying that.
You know, and since you agreed to come here and be a guest on this, I'll give you the award for now.
You give me the award for that? No, I'm way too humble to accept that humility award. I'll give it to you, knowing that I'm better.
You know, okay, well, good. I'll take the new car. And so
silliness.
Hey, Tommy, thank you so much for doing this with me. I appreciate it. I think that there's an opportunity here for people to just hear from, you know, from people that have been in the business world, people in different areas of life, what has worked for them, what, you know, where their passions have led them, what it's done for them, and be able to see for themselves if maybe they're not in a place where they've even reached that,
yeah.
Put their passion into their work and get something out of it. So thank you very much. You got any parting words you want to
share with the people? I would just say that it's never too late to make a change. So if you're like, well, I haven't lived my life, it doesn't matter what has happened. You have only now, only the present moment. So take this opportunity now to say, well, I might have been self-centered, I might have been selfish, I might have been whatever in the past. That doesn't matter. Right now, I'm going to do something to pursue, to use the gifts that God's given me and to pursue helping other people. And that's going to bring ultimate joy to you and to lots of other people, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Tommy.
All right, brother.
And thank you all for listening. And we'll see you on the next one.